Okay, we'll call to order the Little Miami Local Schools Board of Education regular meeting. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Grice?
Here.
Mr. Comedians? Here. Mr. Siebert?
Here.
Mrs. Jernay?
Here.
Mr. Haas?
Here. This time, if you all, presentation of the colors, you will stand.
Peace. Present. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Port. Arms. Left. Ace. Forward. Arch.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to remind everyone up here, as you speak, we have a microphone so that everyone can hear. Excuse me, I need a motion at this time to adopt the agenda with the addendum that you have in front of you. Move. Mr. Cummings? Ms. Jernay? Roll call, please.
Mr. Comedians?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jernay?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Okay, at this time I need a motion to accept the reading of the minutes for February 27, 2018 regular meeting.
I'll move.
Ms. Grice? Mr. Cremines? Roll call, please.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jernay?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Comedians?
Yes. Okay, at this time, communications and/or visitors to the board.
Yes, I would like to introduce Christy Boron.
21st century stuff is just getting us.
Christy Boron is here to give an update.
I can project.
Why don't you could go over there, or you can. I've been given strict directions that I am to talk into the mic tonight.
Use that one. Yeah. That one has terrible feedback. No, I'm not going to karaoke. No, I am here to simply, you want me just to report on the bids, correct? I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Okay, so we did have a bid opening, not last week, the week before, maybe? I don't know, time flies. For the renovation of the district administration offices. And they did exceed the 10% rule. So by state law, if bids come in and our low bid exceeds more than 10% of our published estimate, then we have to rebid. Some of the reasons, really the main reason why bids came in as high as they are is strictly as a result of market. Our contractors are basically booked solid. People are not hungry for work right now, as we can see by everything that is getting built everywhere that we drive. So for that reason, they aren't starving for work, they're showing it in their prices. So I know I've talked to several of the contractors that did bid on it, and they pointed out specific examples just within the last 60 days of projects that have exceeded the 10%, and they're having to go out and rebid. So really just within the last 60 days, really the turn of the year, prices really started to escalate in construction. And our estimate didn't follow along. Market hadn't been out there long enough for us to realize the bump. Therefore, our published estimate ultimately was too low. So we are going back out to bid on it, and we actually hit the streets again this Friday. We're pulling out a little bit of scope such that contractors do not feel that they are bidding the identical project, and by pulling out scope, I mean putting in alternates. Some of the issues you have with a rebid is that contractors have shown their number. So if you go out to bid with the identical package, some contractors struggle a little bit, might even not bid on it because they've revealed their number. So we really try hard to change up the scope a little bit, offer some alternates so that the numbers will be different coming in and we can stay competitive with our contractors. Most of the contractors that I have talked to all totally plan on rebidding it. We had a couple contractors that did not bid a couple weeks ago that I'm hoping will come out this time. And I'm guessing that they didn't bid because they knew as soon as they put their number together that they exceeded the 10%. Therefore, they knew they legally could not get awarded the contract. So they probably at that point said, I'm not going to bother bidding because I know they'll have to rebid it because I'm exceeding the 10%.
So you will take other people bidding, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's totally open again. Drawings hit the street on Friday. Yeah. Well, we're going to hit the printer on Friday. Drawings will be available on Monday. The new bid opening is April 18th.
Pre-bid is April 5th.
The pre-bid's April 5th. I think the bid opening is
April
on
18th.
18th. I think it's April 18th.
Still bond, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
You said you changed some stuff.
So-
Nothing major, just kind of.
Nothing, what we actually did was we took so the last piece of the puzzle is the Suite 300, the renovation of Suite 300. So what we did is we are going to pull that scope out of the base bid and have it as an alternate. Because there's not a lot entailed in that piece, if we need to hold off on that piece, do it later, we can do it later. The technology department can still easily move into that suite, honestly, as is, if we needed to. So that's the piece that we pulled out as an ad alternate. Do you guys have any questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, that's all I have at this time.
Okay, at this time, community comments on agenda items.
No one has signed up.
I hear her voice. Where is she? Okay, she's back. Okay, I was going to say, I hear her voice, but I cannot see Ms. Cook. Thank you, Ms. Cook. Okay, at this time, we will entertain treasurer's reports and recommendations.
Yes, ask for the board's approval on item A of the monthly financial report. Microphone, Terry. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yes, I asked for the board's approval of the monthly financial reports under item A for month ending February 2018.
Ms. Grice? Second. Ms. Janae? Questions or comments? Done?
Included is a monthly bank reconciliation, a financial summary of each individual fund, also 2 different budgetary reports for the general fund, and also a revenue report.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Trene?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Kameen?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, under item B, I ask for the board's approval of the amounts and rates as determined by the Warren County Budget Commission for 2018.
Ms. Janae?
I'll second that.
Ms. Grice? Questions? You have questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Kameen?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jernay? Thank you. Next, I ask for the board's approval under item C, contracts as listed.
Mr. Kameen?
I'll second.
Ms. Janae? I do have a question.
Yes.
This includes the addendum.
Yes, includes addendum for VSWC, that is for the architectural and bidding services for the kitchen renovation at Salem Elementary.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Cremines?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jornet?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, under item D, I ask for the board's approval of the medical office lease agreement with CEI Physicians as presented.
Ms. Grice? Second. Mr. Cremines? Okay.
I do want to point out, this is a 5-year lease, much like the lease was for urgent care also. This lease will bring in approximately $246,000 over the 5 years. If you add into the lease that we have with urgent care of $263,000, we're bringing in almost $510,000 over the next 5 year in rental income.
Additional 100,000.
Yep, that's correct. So we'll have about $500,000 in 5 years from rental income.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cremines?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jornet?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Thank you. And last, under item E, I ask for the board's approval of a donation of a guitar to the Harlan-Butlerville Primary School music program from Jeff and Susan Barterman.
Ms. Jornet?
I'll second.
Ms. Grice? Roll call, please.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jornet?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Cremines?
Yes.
Thank you, and I do want to thank them for that donation. Very much appreciated.
Very nice.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gondik.
Yes, actually, I sent a letter to him.
Okay, at this time, superintendent's reports and recommendations. Mr. Power?
Yes, thank you. I recommend the board approve all items listed under personnel in item A.
I'll move. Mr. Cremines? Ms. Jornet? Questions, comments?
Would just point out Lori Wandbeck, an art teacher here, a longtime teacher in the district, has submitted her letter to retire. She wishes to pursue more time with her grandchild.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Jornet?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Cremines? Yes. Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
And Mrs. Duffy has a couple of newly employed teachers with her tonight that she'd like to bring up and have the board meet. So come on down and shake the board's hand and meet 2 of our new staff.
Kristen Spalding, she'll be our new first grade teacher. And Diane Schroeder will be our second grade teacher. Congratulations. Happy board.
Thank you very much.
The next item, ask the board's approval for item B. Field trip, no expense to the district.
I'll move.
Second. Ms. Grice and Mr. Cremines. I do have a question. What is the Promise Club?
It is one of our high school clubs. It's based off of Sandy Hook.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Cremines?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jornet?
Yes.
Thank you. Would ask the board's approval for item C, the 2018-19 athletic handbook.
Ms. Jornet? Second. Mr. Cremines? Questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Cremines?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Jornet?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Thank you. Would like to ask the board's approval for Resolution 18-004, House Bill 512.
I'll move.
Ms. Grice? Second. Mr. Cremines?
For everyone that's here, currently in the House, there's a legislation that would diminish the Ohio Department of Education and the State Board of Education. It would create a one executive branch office under the governor called the Department of Learning and Achievement, and basically it would be a takeover of K-12, pre-K-12 education, as well as our college Board of Regents by the governor's office.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cremins.
Yes.
Mr. Siebert.
Yes.
Mrs. Jornet.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Mrs. Grice.
Yes.
Thank you. Ask the board's approval for item E. There's a whole listing of updated policies that this is the second reading of.
I'll move.
Ms. Jornet?
I'll second.
Ms. Grice? Roll call, please.
Mr. Siebert.
Yes.
Mrs. Jornet.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Mrs. Grice.
Yes.
Mr. Cremins.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
I just want to make a note. Ms. Jornet brought it to my attention. It seems like we're going through this kind of quickly, but we do receive our packets in advance of the meeting, and we have a lot of discussion. So she said, we're moving pretty quick. People are probably thinking, why, but we do receive this information in advance. So just so you know, that we're just not rubber stamping.
There's a lot of communication that happens during the month that Terry sends them and that I send them in anticipation of these items being on the agenda.
But we wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, at this time, new business. We have the opportunity to have the Warren County Career Center report. President.
Okay,
I really don't need a microphone. The board recognized the fire science senior James Parker for his heroic response to an automobile accident while he used his training to assess EMS responders at the scene. We also, each one of us are from all the schools in Warren County as board members, and we had a student from each of our schools come and talk to us at the board of how the Career Center has kind of changed their lives and advanced them with their career goals. It was quite good.
These kids really have they're ready to go to work, okay? They're ready to start.
Or they could go to college. We had an instructor, Emily White, present a summary of the high school happenings. It's called Touching Base with the Teachers. It lets the board know a little bit about what the teachers are doing in their classroom each month, so it's kind of a neat thing. We might want to do something like that. The board approved agreements with the ACT Work Keys and Sinclair College, Vincent Consulting, and quite a few others. We approved our high school calendar for next year. We approved logos for the Warren County Career Center SAD chapter and our Culinary Mustang Cafe. We do have a mascot. It's a Mustang. And there's even a outfit, horse, Mustang. I thought maybe we're in. Upcoming events, we had a perfect attendance breakfast in March the 21st. April the 12th is our junior orientation of adult ed open house and a regular board meeting. And the superintendent reported on our enrollment and a record number of applications for next year. We are growing. We have the best amount of students that we've had for a long time. Well, forever, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grice.
I will wear that horse. Yes.
Okay, our next board meeting is April 24th at 7 p.m. at the Middle Miami High School Media Center. At this time, community comments on non-agenda items.
Rusty Holman.
Rusty Holman. Mr. Holman, would you like to?
You want the mic?
You want
He
the
needs
mic
that
here? Yes.
Thank you. I have two issues I'd like to bring before the school board.
Could you stand so the rest of the folks can see you?
And talk louder.
Talk louder?
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
A little bit of background. I am a member of the Business Advisory Council for Little Miami Schools. I'm also a very active participant with Hamilton Township, having served in a capacity as fiscal analyst for that township for a period of 18 months a couple of years ago. My comments specifically relate to financial matters, and they are two recommendations. Recommendation number one, I would like to see a simplified financial report for Little Miami Schools each month showing receipts and disbursements compared to budget and prior year, current month and year to date, just to give folks some sense of the flow of money that comes in and goes out of the school district. We've done this with the Hamilton Township, and I can go in and get financial information updated once a month, and it gives me a picture of where the township is going. The comparison to prior years is important because we need to find out whether the revenue stream is growing or declining, and whether our expenditures are growing or declining or staying in line. Okay? The second request that I would make of the board is to consider putting the finances of the Little Miami School District online. Everything. We've done it with the township, and we participate in what is called open checkbook, so that every disbursement that is made by the township is online. You can see it if you want to. Okay? Again, what we're trying to achieve and what I'm recommending to the board is to work toward greater financial transparency. Okay? Nothing more complicated than that. I have no ulterior motive. I've had a number of discussions with members of the school board, with the superintendent, with the treasurer. I'm therefore making it a formal recommendation.
Rusty, just quick, we've got a couple questions. When you say simplified financial report, you said monthly, year-to-date, and then what, year-to-year?
Compared to prior year.
Is that like an executive dashboard?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other, the finances online, is this that, what do they call it? Ohio checkbook?
Yeah, it's not, we participated from the township in a product called OpenGov, which is a product that comes out of California. We signed up, we feed all of our data into them on a monthly basis. They turn around and maintain the detailed reports on the website, charts, graphs, the whole 9 yards. So we chose not to go with Josh Mandel's open checkbook for Ohio, but we preempted the open checkbook by going with OpenGov. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Is there a charge or is it free?
No, there is a charge to set up, and then there is a charge to maintain, but they are minimal charges.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you know, I'm going to stand up. I was a teacher, and I taught in 3 different districts. And I just want to say, this is the most outstanding district that I have ever worked with. I'm not a teacher here, I don't work here, but I am so thankful for the teachers and the administrators, and I guess even Mr. Power. We have a good place here, we have good education, and I don't think we say that often enough, and I'm just proud of this place. And I know that we're asking for money, and it seems like we're always asking for money. But again, I've said this before, if we had no public school and you had to put your child in a private institution for education, you would pay a lot more than you're paying in taxes. So that's my say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Okay. Any other community comments, non-agenda items?
Wayne Rathus. I'll go by Wayne. When
Hey, you. Whatever it seems to be. I'll start by saying I appreciate each and every person at Little Miami Schools. You do a thankless job that is getting harder and harder every day, even by the minute sometimes. Today I would like to discuss our varying discipline issues at the school buildings and why I, as a parent, have been sorely disappointed in the Little Miami schools. I was told by a wise woman that the discussion needed to be started, so I'm starting it. 2 weeks ago, my fourth grader at Salem Elementary was targeted at lunch by another student and told, "I'm going to kill you." My daughter was told by her teacher that the other student was just being dramatic and didn't mean it. Therefore, she didn't need to go tell the principal. For what it's worth, my daughter did not feel threatened, except for the unfairness shown to our family over the prior year. My daughter didn't understand how being told this statement did not warrant some sort of punishment. At the very least, by the way of the elementary school handbook, this other student should have been removed from privileges that allowed the harassment to occur. That statement was found in the handbook, pointed out to me by my daughter, a 9-year-old. It's called physical harassment. Last year, my son is a 6th grader at the intermediate school. He was repeatedly told to kill himself by 3 young ladies. Not only in class within earshot of a teacher, but by way of social media, to the point that even one of the girls created a sock account, or a fake account, to harass him even further. This is considered verbal harassment and cyberbullying by the intermediate handbook. These girls remained in class and at lunch with my son all year. No loss of privileges or removal from my son's area. And let me tell you, the damage done by those girls last year, I have never been so afraid in all of my life for my son's well-being. Ever. I was afraid that I would lose my son last year. Now let's jump to this year, March 7th to be exact. My son is sitting in his language arts class and is allowed to be talking with friends as their work was complete. All 3 boys start talking about a video game that they often play with each other, Fortnite. One of the boys starts talking about what he's going to do to my son in the game. And my son retorts back, "Well, I'll just shoot you in the head then." The teacher heard it and gave my son grief over it and was actually teasing him about it. "Should I send you to Mrs. Gates? I'm not sure that should have been said." And the class even started in, "Ha ha, you're gonna be in trouble." When they started that teasing, Mrs. Gates actually was walking by and heard the commotion from the hallway. She was told what had transpired, and my son was immediately removed from class, told that the SRO was being called along with his parents. At this point, my son has no idea what is transpiring, but I get a call that the police have been notified, only told about his statement, and in no context in which it was said. I call his father, who his immediate statement was, he was talking about Fortnite. Headshots are immediate death in the game. Lo and behold, when we arrived at the school, the other 2 boys had already explained that it was a video game, and my son was not threatening to shoot anyone in real life. The class all knew it was about Fortnite. The boys had said it. Even the teacher knew it was a video game. Mrs. Gates, though, said that he had to serve an in-school suspension for 2 days. Anyone knows that in-school suspension is punishment. We were told later that he was also disrespectful to the teacher. That wasn't said that day. If it had been, when we saw the teacher 30 minutes later, he would have immediately apologized to the teacher. I would have smacked the back of his head.
He told me today, actually, when we were talking about this, that he was trying to explain to another administrator, lamenting that the kids in half the class would love to see him go to jail. And he was told by that administrator, just shut up, stop talking. My son told me today, when we were talking about that, and he told me that, he said, Mom, I wish Mr. Showers could follow me to every school. Because even when I screwed up, he still respected me. Now this class where this happened, it's the same class where the teacher divided the students into Mexico and USA. The good kids were American and the bad kids were Mexican. Mine was a Mexican. What kind of respect are we showing the kids when we do that in the classroom? And this incident and type of stereotyping behavior is not isolated to just that room. It's evident in almost every aspect of the school system by administrators and teachers. The ones chosen and hired to protect all the kids, not just the ones that they like. I understand that my son's statement was perceived as a threat to the student, and it is in the handbook. But the administrators have to be given the leniency to look at malice and intent, which is exactly why SRO Brandenburg laughed and didn't even need to talk to my son. He spoke with the other two boys and said, there's nothing here. He actually laughed with me when I went to the self-defense class about it. He's like, yeah, that was a stupid move, but It's kids. We're talking about the video game. The junior high handbook changes the course from the other handbooks in that all consequences are labeled as application of consequences at any level of offense will remain at the discretion of the administration. The levels of consequence for this type of offense, the threat, on the first occurrence can be a warning from administrator, referral to guidance, or possible 1 to 3 day suspension. If he had been disrespectful, Rule 5 states that the first offense is a 1 to 5 day suspension as alternate education setting, not as an ISS in school suspension. Of course, even though the malice was not there, and it was quickly confirmed that he was speaking about a video game, and the other students knew it was in that context, the administration went full bore and went to 2-day in-school suspension. And yet, while there are clearly defined consequences for the 1st through 5th offense for threats, and really most of the rules in the handbook, look at rule number 8. No clear-cut consequences or 1st through 5th offenses for harassment or bullying. Just left up to the administrators. I called Regina, and I love her, by the way. And I was told by her that in this day and age we live in, the emotional response to something like this being said is what it is. Yes, he was talking about shooting a kid in the head in a video game. It was not a malicious statement like those girls to him from 6th grade telling him to kill himself. It was no worse or no better than my daughter being told by another student that she was going to kill her. Have we as a society become a bunch of fearful people that forget or don't bother to look deeper and just go full bore on things like shoot you in the head, but brush off, I will kill you or you should kill yourself? Little Miami administrators and board, I ask, how do I tell my kid that what he did, talking about a video game, was so much more terribly wrong than being told to kill himself and his sister being told she would get killed? How do I rationalize that to my child? His language involved a weapon, and that caused the emotional response. An emotional response that was way too much for the crime committed. When are we going to have an emotional response about harassment and badgering to feel worthless? Where's that team of crisis responders that I could have used last year? Again, I have never felt so isolated from the school system and fearful for my child's well-being as I did last year. And I have never felt such disdain for the school system as I have in the last 3 weeks. And anyone can tell you that reads the school Facebook page, I'm one of your biggest supporters. Don't get me wrong. There is a larger issue of school shootings that I won't attempt to solve or even dive into, since frankly, there isn't enough time tonight. But are we as a school system failing the kids that have no malice, no intent, because he or she might be the one that goes crazy? Or are we as the administrators causing those kids to go crazy? Punishing a student for a non-malicious statement is akin to throwing an innocent man in jail. Maybe administrators need to be better armed with knowledge about discerning a student's risk and assessing malice. Maybe we should allow the guidance counselors to utilize the psychology classes that they took in undergrad and master's programs. Maybe we need to treat the kids like they are kids, who sometimes make really dumb mistakes, but they deserve our grace. And they deserve our respect, even when they do wrong. Maybe we need to get back to teaching the golden rule. We can throw out all these catchphrases of be respectful, be responsible, be a problem solver. But that's not the standard that we're living up to as adults with these children in the schools. The school system did not show my kids respect when they reached out on something that could have been a criminal matter. The girls telling my kid to kill himself. That was actually cyberbullying when we as parents could have pressed charges. But we showed grace to those girls and hoped that their parents would take care of it. The school was not responsible with my son's well-being when he was forced to not see those girls punished. The schools are not being problem solvers when there are different rules applied to different students. No child should ever go through what my child did last year and then be treated like a student who threw a physical punch on another student this year with his punishment. What kind of message are we sending? It's not one of respect. In a fighting situation, both students get suspended no matter what. The 2 students that were in the in-school suspension with my son were fighting. The adults cannot be everywhere at all times. Trust me, my father taught at Newport High School for 20 plus years. But punishing the one that did not start it and couldn't get away, I mean, every single handbook, it's no tolerance. You throw a punch, it doesn't matter if you started it or you're defending yourself, you're done, you're gone. 3 days, see ya. Come on. What the heck? Those 2 boys that were in school suspension with my son saw the fight. Even though the popular kid was picking on the unpopular kid, and the unpopular kid asked and yelled repeatedly for help from the adults in the room, the unpopular kid finally had to throw a punch to get the other kid to leave his personal self alone. Granted, a better choice would have been to get up and move.
Ms. Rappaport, can I interject something here? I can't say I understand where you're coming from because I don't know the situation. We normally, we have a time limit, so I want to cut to this. What are you asking for?
I'm asking us to reassess our discipline guidelines. I was actually just talking to Mr. Showers before because my son made the comment, that he wishes Mr. Showers could follow him everywhere.
Hang on a second. To do that, what we have to do is we would have to rely on administration to do that. And I'm sure you understand the workings.
And I understand it comes to you and then you approve it.
Yes, that is correct. If we don't hear things like this, then we can ask questions. That's
And
why-
what I'm saying is that the district as a whole has a zero tolerance policy.
Yes.
We're not giving the administrators the room to move with that policy. It is an all or nothing. We are kowtowing to the moms that are screaming about their little Johnnies and how the school isn't doing enough to take care of them. Frankly, school needs to grab its gonads and be a man about this, honestly. Because what we're going to do is we're going to have these extreme punishments for non-extreme offenses. And because we're going to be glorious in saving and potentially finding that one student that might be a problem, but because we're punishing these 10 over here with extreme consequences for non-extreme issues, we're going to in fact create 10 crazy kids that are going to come in and shoot up the school.
I have to disagree with that, but I appreciate your input on this.
I won't disagree because I was actually suspended as a freshman for something I didn't do, and I know what it feels like.
I just want to make sure that we've heard what you have to say. And this is something we can take up with Mr. Power, but I do appreciate you coming forward because it does sound like it's something that needs to be talked about. But we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Community comments, Ms.
Greg Hauser. Greg Hauser.
Greg Hauser. Greg. Thank you.
I'm just back this evening after having been at the last school board meeting to once again reiterate to you, the school board, that there is substantial support in this community for you to move forward with the Faster Saves Lives program. After I spoke with you, sorry, is this better? Thank you, my apologies. So I wanted to reiterate to you that there's tremendous support in this community for you to move forward with the Faster Saves Lives program. After I spoke to you a month ago, I was having lunch with other elementary school parents, and I was impressed with how quickly the moms, they brought up this topic of their own and expressed quite a bit of support. And we talked to some of them. They wanted to be here despite the rain, soccer practices and other family responsibilities got in the way. But I expect that you'll see them at some point. And I think one of the key elements that's there is the layered approach of preparedness, all the way from having good guidance counselors to support the kids, to being able to respond in an emergency situation, strong security, and even this level of ability to respond so that when a kid is injured. This includes a tourniquet, chest compression. And if you don't know how to use it, you can sit there crying while somebody dies in front of you. But if you do know how to use it, you can stop the bleeding and save a life as you wait for EMT to eventually come in. Because it'll take some time. And that's the whole point about FASTER, preparedness and being able to react. One thing that I've seen as I've done my research, they are never, ever lacking for volunteers from staff, whether it be administrators, whether it be teachers, whether it be faculty, because everyone that's in this profession cares deeply about their children. And and when I say their children, I mean the kids in their classroom. That's completely clear. So we know that time is a matter of life and death, and you've got a choice. You can either get the schools prepared and make time of the essence, or you can pick up the phone and call for somebody who is prepared and wait while kids die in the event of a horrible, tragic emergency. Or you can be prepared and save lives. So thank you.
I'd just like to say that as a student, I know that I'd rather not be helpless if something terrible were to happen to me or any of my fellows during the school day. We have layered protection for fire alarms with drills, alarms stationed all around the school, and fire extinguishers located wherever you can see them. In fact, there's one just over there right now. But why don't we have the same thing to help with an active shooter or anything like that? We need to have ways to protect and ways to help afterwards. The responsibility of the police would be to stop or help protect the citizens and enforce the law. But they take time to get here, and we need to be ready when the thing happens. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all.
That's it? All right. Thank you, Ms. Coates. Okay. This time, we need a motion to move into executive session to consider the employment of public employee official, no action taken.
I'll move.
Second.
Nancy, Mr. Nay, first, and then Mr. Cremeen second. Ms. Price. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jernay? Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Grice?
Yes.
Mr. Cremins?
Yes.
Mr. Siebert?
Yes. Did you take that?
Yes, we already did.